All right, welcome back to Axo School's virtual science class. Today is day 2 of our circulatory system lesson. So if you missed day 1, you may want to go back and watch that before joining us for our activity today.
Definitely. And today we're going to be making a life-size representation of the circulatory system. And as we go through the activity, there's going to be a lot of vocab that we review and new words that we go over. So I've linked a sheet below as well for you to follow along. But first, Karosh, can you tell us what we need in order to do the activity?
Yep. All you will need is one large poster paper. You will need a red and a blue marker. Now, you do have to have a red and a blue, but I only have a pink and a blue because Munda has our red, and the other red was taken apart for science experiments. And if you don't have like a large poster paper, that's okay. You could just use a piece of paper like Munda is going to demonstrate for you today. It'll just be the same thing we do on a smaller scale.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Karosh. And he's exactly right. The red and the blue matter because they mean something, okay? So the red represent blood that is oxygenated, or we say oxygen rich or with oxygen, right? Blood that has oxygen. The blue is deoxygenated blood, or blood that is oxygen poor or doesn't have any oxygen. So you might hear us either say oxygen poor, deoxygenated, or without oxygen. That's our blue. Red is with oxygen.
Yes, I also want to add, if you want to, you can do your heart in black because you're just the heart shape, because it doesn't have to be either red or blue.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Though mine's already in red or pink because we had a failed go at this.
We did. Okay. Take two.
Yeah. So
right.
Micah and I have drawings of upper bodies, and you can see them behind us. So say hello to Mr. Anime Master 2828.
You're muted.
Great. And say hello to Mrs. Joe. She's always ready to be drawing, even though she doesn't have hands.
All right. Hello, Mr. Anime 2828 and Miss Joe. Yeah. Miss Joe. Okay, I will try to remember their names. I hope they're not offended when I forget their names. I'm going to go with Mr. Nobody. That's what my guy's name is named. That was my imaginary friend when I was 4.
What about just Mr.?
All right, you'll notice I drew one on my board, Mr. Nobody. If you don't have someone to help trace your body, which is the intent of the activity, you can just draw it out, kind of like both Karosh and Montana did on their different scales, or on a regular piece of paper.
Like mine is traced from me, though the neck doesn't look like a neck, and Manana is just a drawn image.
Yep. So let's begin by drawing our hearts. Now, before you do this, we want it to be placed correctly on your model. So first we need to understand that when we look at our models, it's like looking at a mirror, or as if the model is laying on their backs on the floor. If that's the case, things may seem a little backward when you're thinking about left and right.
Yeah, so that's the tricky part. Thank you for that, Danielle. You'll notice that I'm standing up next to Mr. Nobody, and my right is my actual right because we're both facing the same direction, and my left is my actual left because we're facing the same direction. If I were to be facing it like a mirror, they would be opposite, right? So that's why we have them labeled R and L in order to show that, right, and help us keep it straight.
Madonna, do you want to show us your paper model?
Oh, yeah. So I have a paper model. So I have included my left and right to keep it straight. So
nice.
L, R.
That's right. And Madonna, can you hold it up in front of you real quick? And now will you raise your right hand? Yep, so you can see that the R corresponds to the right side of Madonna, and now put that paper in your right hand and raise your left hand. And that left side is on her left side. So now when she puts it down, she knows that that's the correct orientation. Thank you guys for that clarification.
On the left side, if I stick on my right hand, it's on the right side of my guy.
Perfect.
Yep. That's right. So that part can get a little bit tricky, so make sure you have that down. So back to drawing your heart. We know that the anatomical heart is positioned slightly to the left side of the body. And it's positioned that way because the left ventricle pumps the blood further around the body to your head, all the way down to your toes. And this is against a really high pressure system in the body compared with the right ventricle that only pumps to your lungs. And our lungs sit right beside our heart, so that blood doesn't really have that far to go in the body in order to get to where it needs to be. So because the left ventricle has to pump the blood to the entire body, it's going to be a lot larger due to its musculature, and it's going to look a little bigger. And because that's on the left side, the heart is shifted a little bit to the left.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Do we need to draw an actual anatomical heart, or can we just do cartoon hearts like I did?
So
Am I allowed to do this?
a cartoon heart is perfect for today. If you want the challenge of creating an anatomical heart, you're absolutely able to do that. I'll link a few links below that show you what that looked like if you want to mimic it. But for the sake of time and the lack of my artistic ability, it's okay to go with a cartoon heart today. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a heart and some lungs. We know that the heart is a little bit to the left of the sternum, and then there's lungs on either side. So go ahead and do that on your model as well.
All right, and
So from
Karush
our
has
failed
already
recording
done it.
earlier, we already have our heart and lungs. And Mandana had hers, but she has switched to a piece of paper now.
all right, go ahead, Mandana. You can draw that heart a little bit to the left side, as well as your lungs. I actually can't tell if you're doing it. You might be frozen.
I think she's frozen.
Oh no.
That's okay. I'm sure it'll come back here in a minute.
That's right. All right, so, oh, there she is. Excellent. And now those heart and lungs are drawn there. Now to test your knowledge a bit, how many chambers does that heart have?
It has 4 chambers, 2 atria, and 2 don't tell me. Ventricles. Yes, ventricles. The right atrium receives oxygen poor blood from the body and pumps it to the right ventricle. The right ventricle pumps the oxygen poor blood to the lungs so that it can pick up oxygen. The left atrium receives oxygen-rich blood from the lungs and pumps it to the left ventricle. I don't know why I'm saying vertice. The left ventricle pumps the blood to the rest of the body.
Nice, Karosh. You're right. So we're going to go ahead and split our heart into 4 different parts, and we're going to label them with the correct chamber. So we're going to label them right atrium, just RA, left atrium, or LA, right ventricle, or RV, and left ventricle, LV. We're just using the 2 letters to save room so that we can see our arteries and veins later.
Should those all be in black?
You can. Sure. That's fine.
Wait, Danielle, could I see yours again?
Sure. So the atria are our top chambers, the ventricles are the bottom chambers, and you will use the right and left side marks that you've already made on your drawing to know which side of the heart that is. So that should kind of help you get that done. Everybody go ahead and give me a thumbs up when you have it finished. Nice.
I'm going to scoop my chair back without hitting biscuit so you can see my...
All right, are we all good?
Yep.
There we go. Now you have a better view of my drawing.
And all right, thumbs up if you've got it. Perfect.
All right, now that you have your chambers drawn, we get to go into our arteries and our veins. So make sure you stick with us here. Mandy, can you remind us what each of those are and what their function is in the circulatory system?
Yes, I'm back. Okay, so arteries are blood vessels responsible for carrying oxygen-rich blood away. So we learned this yesterday, right? From the heart to the body. Veins are blood vessels that carry blood coming from the body back to the heart. This blood is low in oxygen and the heart needs it to send to the lungs to get more oxygen. Arteries and veins are two of the body's main types of blood vessels. There are many arteries and veins, but today we're only going to go over a few.
Yep. So let's get to drawing them on our own models. Take your time, ask for any clarifications before you draw because it can get tricky. We're going to try to tell you what color they are and why, and hopefully this cycle will make a lot of sense. We want you to have the best model that you can, so make sure you ask questions when you have them. We're going to start with the arteries. Remember that arteries are going away from the heart. So everyone grab your red marker for me. Everybody got it? Or pink?
Yes.
Excellent. We know that arteries carry blood away. So remember, arteries start with A, just like the word away. This is going to help us to remember that. The first artery we're going to talk about is the aorta, and this is a very important artery.
So, this is the main artery of the body. It supplies blood with oxygen to the entire body. In humans, it passes over the heart from the left ventricle and runs down in front of the backbone. Let's all draw those on our model.
All right. So when you draw your aorta, be sure to grab your red marker since this blood contains oxygen. You're going to draw a line from the left ventricle of your heart up toward the head. So I don't have a body here, I just have the heart, but you're going to draw it from the left ventricle up toward the head, all the way into your head there.
Just making it thick so it's maybe easier to see on camera.
Ah, perfect. So the aorta carries blood to the head, the neck, and your arms. So what you're going to want to do is once you have that main line drawn all the way up into your head, you're going to also branch off that main line an artery that goes down to your left arm and an artery that goes down to your right arm. So Mandy's got it up there on her board if you need any guidance.
Is it still all in red?
Yes.
Yep, we are sticking with that red color. I'll make it very clear when we are changing to another one just so that we can all be on the same page.
And
yep,
we are
and
still
as you
on
know,
the aorta.
Yep, this is all the aorta. The aorta is responsible. It has things that branch off of it to go to all these different parts, but it is the main supply vessel that's going to give that blood to all of our body. So now we've done the head and it looks great. I see everybody's aorta as well as their branches off of it. So I just told you that the aorta supplies it to the entire body, and Mandana told us that this is why it was important. So there's another part of it that goes down to our legs and our toes. The descending thoracic aorta travels down through the chest. You're going to draw a line from that left ventricle downward. And then once you get near the bottom of your person, it's going to branch into two different branches because it's got to go to your legs and your toes and everywhere in between. So the descending thoracic aorta has small branches that supply blood to the ribs and some chest structures. And then the abdominal aorta begins at the diaphragm, which is that line, the muscle that sits right underneath your heart, and splits to become the paired iliac arteries in the lower abdomen. So now you're going to draw that line that should branch at the bottom of your picture. It looks like everybody has that, and that is representative of the blood going all the way down both legs to your toesies.
Yeah, that's a very important artery. Kurosh, did you have a question?
I just wanted to add something. So it's important to like know which one it's coming from. So if you see on Mandana's, like hers that went up just came from the top. That's fine. Like, but you. So the one that Danielle said to do it from was the left ventricle. So just make sure you're knowing which artery or which part of the heart you're taking your lines from.
Yep, and it looks like Mandana's actually has a thick line on the outside of her heart. It looks a little thicker to me on that left side. So it could be coming from that left ventricle down there. But that is a great clarification point. All of the things that we just drew came from that left ventricle. That's why we told you earlier that it's bigger and more muscular, because it's got to go all throughout the body.
Absolutely. The next arteries we're going to talk about are the left and right pulmonary arteries. Now, these are a little different because they are arteries going away from the heart of the lungs, okay? So the pulmonary arteries bring their deoxygenated blood to the left and right lungs. Let's draw those on our models. For this one, you're going to need to use your blue marker because it's deoxygenated. You need to draw 2 arteries from the right ventricle. So find the right ventricle, okay? Yep, you can see on Danielle's as well. And we're going to draw those, one leading to each lung from that ventricle. These are the pulmonary arteries, okay? So we'll go ahead and do that from the right ventricle.
So from the right ventricle, this bottom right side of your heart, you're gonna have one line that goes to your right lung, and you're gonna have one line that circles around and goes over to your left lung. And now it's important to remember that these are blue. And the reason they're blue is because they don't have any oxygen in them. It's going to the lungs to pick up oxygen.
So Daniela, just a clarifying question, because I want to make sure that I get this right. Instead of me drawing a straight line to this lung, this one should go up and around?
I mean, either way you want to do it, it's fine. That's just the representation I have just to make it a circle.
Gotcha.
To show that it's a cyclical system. Our arteries and veins that we are drawing today are not going to be in the same anatomical places as they are in the body. We can link below a picture of what blood flow would look like with the anatomical structures, because they kind of loop up and over the heart, because it is a 3D structure and tubes come out of it. So that's going to be a little hard for us to draw.
Yeah, it's going to look quite a bit different than the anatomically correct version, but we're doing the best we can here. And as long as we understand that it's cyclical and that we can kind of depict that on here, I think we're good to go. Karosh, can you tell us what happens when the blood reaches the lungs? So this is deoxygenated.
Yeah, there the blood picks up oxygen from the lungs and is transported back to your heart through the pulmonary veins. Everyone grab your red markers. And we should draw these with our red markers, once again, since the blood is now oxygenated from the lungs. We should include arrows pointing back toward the heart to the left atrium. Mandy, you could demonstrate the fact, what we're going to draw.
Okay. So I'm starting with my right lung up and over to my left atrium. Okay, this blood is now oxygenated because it landed here in the lungs without oxygen. Now it's oxygen rich and can return back to the left atrium on both sides. And I'm going to draw an arrow to the left atrium.
Awesome.
Does that look correct?
Do both of them go to the left atrium? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, good question.
Very good question. Mandana, do you have your red lines from your lungs connected to your left atrium? Mandy can give you a close-up.
Yes.
Okay.
I need a little bit of help. I'm falling behind.
All right.
Okay.
I've got you. I've got you. So here we go. Your blue lines, can you extend those all the way into your lungs for me? They can go in the lung anywhere. Go ahead and draw those all the way in. Perfect.
Perfect.
Perfect. And now you can get rid of that blue marker, because we have now picked up our oxygenated blood, which is our red marker. And from those lungs, you will draw a red line that goes up to the left atria. So go ahead and draw a red line, kind of like Mandy. Mandy, can you point to your lung and your left atria?
It goes to the top right side of the heart, the left.
Left side.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. So put that down into the lung.
And you can draw an arrow.
Good work.
Okay, and now the other one needs to go to the same spot that one came from.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, make sure it's going
The
from
other
the
one?
lung to the left atria, and your blue line is going from the right right what?
But does
Ventricle.
this one go to
Yep,
the
right ventricle. You're right, Kurosh.
There's another one to
One
the
that
other
goes
lung?
the head and the body comes from the left ventricle.
You got it.
Yep. Mandana, you are good to go. You have caught up. Thank you for bringing it to our attention that we needed to come back and grab you because you are right on track with us now and have the exact same thing. So to review so far, you have the aorta supplying blood to the head, neck, arms, and for the top part of the body, but also supplying it to our organs in our abdomen and all the way down to our toes. You also drew the pulmonary arteries and the pulmonary veins. This blood is deoxygenated because in the pulmonary arteries, you've just gotten back to the heart from the rest of the body, and it needs to go to the lungs to pick up that oxygen. Then once the blood picks up a little bit of its oxygen friends in the lungs, the pulmonary veins are going to carry it back to the heart like a circle over and over and over again. This cycle continues, and this is why it's called the circulatory system. Remember, arteries carry blood away from the heart and veins carry blood to the heart.
Nice. Thank you for that review. That was awesome. So lastly, we're going to add some more veins to our model. Mandana, what color marker should we use for these veins?
And you're muted.
So we should use the blue one.
Yep.
That's
because
red.
most veins carry blood without oxygen back to the heart.
What color you got in your hand there?
Oh, the red one.
But you are right. We should use the blue one. The largest veins in the body are called the superior and inferior vena cava. Superior is the top, super. You can think of superheroes or above because superheroes fly in the sky. So you're going to think about that as being on top. Inferior means below. So this is the bottom portion. You can think of this as like being underneath something. Both the superior and inferior vena cavas drain directly into the right atrium of the heart. The superior vena cava delivers blood from the head and chest area to the heart, which makes sense because it's super and coming from the top. So let's go ahead and draw that vein. We're going to draw that superior vena cava. You need a blue line from your head coming back to the right atrium of your heart. You can also do what Kurosh is already doing. That is going to be coming from your arms. So your veins can also be blue and link right into that superior vena cava that is going into the right atrium. All right, so let's let everybody get done with that. Remember, arteries and veins are the roadways in our body, and the blood is only going in one direction. So a lot of times you're going to see arteries that take the blood there, and you're going to see veins that are bringing the blood back. So a lot of times these will happen in pairs, but when you're starting to understand it, it's easier to look at this as a cycle.
So Danielle, if I were to kind of trace my finger, I've got this line here, which is going from the head to the right atria. And then I've got this line coming from the right arm to the right atria and left arm to the right atria. So these arteries are on the outside moving this direction away from the heart. And then that blood is then returned back to the heart through these veins, correct?
That is exactly right. So looks like everybody's got these drawn. So let's draw now the inferior vena cava. This is going to be the lower portion. So as you can imagine, the inferior vena cava returns blood from all of the lower body regions to the heart. So let's go ahead and draw that, and it's going to come from the legs down there all the way back up the abdomen, and it again is going to return to this right atrium.
So I'm just gonna come down here and draw from the right atria, just one line going to the right side of the body because I'm facing it.
Yep.
And one line going to the left side of the body.
Awesome.
And it's moving this direction toward the heart. These blue lines are always. Well, with the exception of that artery, that pulmonary artery. Awesome.
Yep.
Okay. So everyone be sure to show your models in camera view right now, because that kind of sums up the arteries and veins that we're going to be doing. They look awesome. You guys did a really good job. This was not an easy activity. And the circulatory system it's a difficult thing to comprehend, right? But the one thing that we want you to really remember is that arteries go away, veins to the heart, and this is a cycle that continues over and over and over again. So let's see. Make sure that's for you to do. Where were we? Even though we drew some examples of arteries and veins on our model, we didn't put their names, right? So that's something that you can do later. We're gonna not do that right now for the sake of time, but make sure you do that because that's gonna be helpful in understanding what we're doing here.
Yeah. So Karosh, can you give us the main takeaway?
Yes, the main thing we want you to remember is that the circulatory system includes arteries that carry blood away from the heart in arteries, away from the heart. In arteries, the blood usually has oxygen and is transported to the entire body with these red lines. That all of that has oxygen, so it's filling your body, making you be able to function correctly. Mm-hmm. What's it called? Veins carry blood back to the heart, and usually it doesn't have any oxygen. It doesn't have oxygen anymore because the body used it all up. So once all of these red lines send it throughout the body, excluding these two, once all of them send it throughout the body, you use up all the oxygen. With the blue lines, you send it all back to the heart, and the heart gives it to the lungs, and then those lungs make the red oxygen again. Or like the red lines, which has oxygenated blood in it, which the heart sends throughout the body once again.
Yep. And another major takeaway is we want you to understand that this is a closed circulatory system. And what that means is that it just circles over and over and over again. So let's start up here at our left atrium. So at our left atrium, it shifts the blood into the ventricle. The left ventricle pumps the blood to the rest of our body. As you can see here, the red represents oxygenated, and as it goes halfway through our body, it then switches from the arteries to the veins where it's already used up our oxygen. These veins transport that blood back to our right atrium. We know that the right side, once we have no more oxygen in our blood, we've got to go to the lungs. So the right atrium goes to the right ventricle. The right ventricle sends this deoxygenated or oxygen poor blood to our lungs. And as you can see, halfway through this, our blood becomes oxygenated again and turns red. And we then go back to our left atrium because we know that our left side is the big side and again has to send it to the body. And now I'm going to have my friends join in with us. When the heart contracts and relaxes, this process of blood transportation to the body happens
over and over and over
and over and over and over and over and over and over and over again.
Yes, it just keeps going. Exactly. We could go on and on and on.
Stop. So it's not over and over and over again. It's however many times till you die.
Oh, yes.
Exactly.
And it stops.
Yeah. We're going to stop before that. But check out the links for some extra resources, and we're excited to see you guys next time.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Good job today.
Good job.